How's it going, everyone? Andy and the BHD team here for another episode of the Biohazard Declassified podcast. Say hello, gents. How are you doing on this fantastic evening?
How's it going, everyone? Doing good.
Caffeine filled.
So we're joined with the two Matts, as we call them. We have the good Matthew and Matt the Marvel T-type. There's been so much information coming out. We've needed to do this for a while, and I'm so happy that we're finally getting around to it because 3 different pieces of Resident Evil film-related media has come out, which we'll talk about, and then we'll move on to some Village-related news, or at least loosely news. But 3 different pieces of media, and let's get straight into it. So the first piece of media that's been on everyone's minds at the moment is, of course, the Resident Evil Reboot film cast announcement, which is actually it's the last piece of media to be announced. Well, it's not even really officially announced. It's just the cast has been announced. This has come as an absolute surprise to every single Resident Evil fan because, again, this is the 3rd piece of media in literally 2 months that has come out about Resident Evil. So really, really good time to be a Resident Evil fan at the moment. We can now officially conclude that the Resident Evil series with Mia Jovovich in it is now dead in the water. Obviously, it's final chapter anyway, but that they've shut that down. We're moving on. We're doing something else. Let's see how it goes. But actually, initially, guys, what do you two think of this new news about a Resident Evil reboot? And it's seemingly, and we'll talk about the cast in a minute, but it seemingly is going to have a lot of the original cast, which for me, in the other Resident Evil series, which has been on for the last 15 years, has really lacked. If anything, it's just pointless fan service. They really want to push these as main characters. What do you boys think? Let's start with Matt K.
I mean, honestly, it was refreshing to hear about it because we've been getting so much information recently on new Resident Evil projects that are coming out. The idea that we have Netflix as well as this movie, The Wesker Children. I think the most important thing is when reading this, because I was surprised it came out that day, is how close they want to stick to the original game timeline as well as the source material. I mean, if we're going to be honest, the Resident Evil Paul W.S. Anderson trilogy wasn't necessarily a horrible trilogy, but the thing is, after the first or 2 movies, I mean, it just wasn't Resident Evil anymore. Now, the fact that they have literally said we're taking all the main characters from not only Resident Evil 1 but Resident Evil 2, we have Leon and Claire involved. They said it is going to be based off of Raccoon City 1998. It's going to be literally the same storyline that we would see in the games themselves, as well as the background material. I think it has a lot of promise. I mean, it's what we've been asking for what, maybe 10 plus years at this point, and now it's an actual reality. So
yeah, that's it. Well, that it's seeming, and again, until a trailer comes out, until there is a lot more a lot more story information, we can only comment so much. But Matt the Marvel, what were your initial thoughts when you heard this news? And again, seemingly coming out of absolutely nowhere.
To be quite honest, I'm not really excited. I've always had a bad taste in my mouth from Resident Evil films. The only ones I've ever liked were the CGI films. So, but like any mainline Resident Evil, I've hated. I never liked it. I didn't like it. I didn't like how it made me feel. How like the way that the Resident Evil games, the OG games, made me feel, and seeing OG characters in those films. I know that we're not talking about the old ones. The old ones have left such a bad taste in my mouth. I'm really concerned for what they are going to bring. I'm pretty sure it can't be any worse than what they have now. But I'm nervous. As a diehard Resident Evil fan, I'm nervous. And I think that I have the right to be nervous, seeing as what we've had. Anything when it comes to film and Resident Evil, they just, for some reason, they kind of like water and oil kind of mix. Sometimes they really don't. It's weird. For some reason, they can't get it right. The only one that I ever liked was the first one, but I never liked Alice as a character. But from what we're seeing now, these are original characters that we have come to love, come to know. We know their stories. We know what their personalities are like. And seeing as the director is saying that he's actually played these games before as a kid, and he knows what this game made him feel when he was playing them, there's that little God ray of hope that I keep thinking like, okay, this guy's actually played the game. He's actually experienced these characters, know what they're, what they've done and gone through. So maybe he can actually implement that very well. I'm just very nervous. I have every right to be, but these characters will make the movie. So hopefully, we'll
see. Let's be honest. Resident Evil haven't had the greatest of track records when it comes to Resident Evil film media, and we're not talking about the animated series, and that's something we're going to, of course, a bit later. But for me, the first Resident Evil was an interesting concept. The first Resident Evil film, the 2002 film, was really interesting. I really loved the concept, and then by the third or fourth, fifth movie, they'd completely lost me. It just seemed like they were shilling for a character no one really gave any cares about, or any cursive word that you can use in there, that no one really cared about. We know what we wanted from Resident Evil, or at least, and I'll go into this a little bit because there has been a bit of controversy with the cast, but we have an understanding of what we want from the series, what we want from an adaptation of a film, and it just wasn't it. It just really wasn't it. So the only piece of news as of today's date, the 10th of October 2020, is that there has been a cast leak, and some of these, and I'm not afraid to admit it, I do not know. But that's okay. But that's okay. It's
Same,
not
Andy.
everything. We don't have to know everything. Obviously, we've been talking about the boys a lot, and most of them characters, aside from Carl Urban, I didn't really know. So, most of the actors, apologies, I didn't really know. So, you always give the benefit of the doubt to these people. But yeah, as we've broken it down on our website, biohazardcast.com, of the recent news. So earlier this year, we talked about Capcom's next attempt of a live-action Resident Evil reboot filmed by Cosm T Films. The cast was only a few maybes at the time, but now we have some names revealed. The news comes from Hollywood on the heels of two shows being developed at Netflix that we'll go into later. One story of Wesker's Daughters and a CGI series, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. But first, it's worth talking about the two who haven't changed. Claire Redfield looks to be played by Kaya, and I'm completely going to butcher that name. Scoliendaria?
Scoldalario. I had to learn to enunciate it.
Indeed. Hannah John Kamen would be filling in the role of Jill Valentine. And then we've got these were on our website, biohazardcast.com. Brendan Thwaites playing Chris Redfield.
No. It was going to be Brendan Thwaites.
Excuse me. Yeah, it was going to be. Yeah, apologies. It's going to be Brendan Thwaites. I should really read what I'm saying, shouldn't I? Now, Robbie Amell of Upload will be playing the iconic role. Leon S. Kennedy will be played by Avon Yogia, I want to say. Maybe not. Series villain is Albert Wesker, the Umbrella Academy's Tom Hopper. And Neil McDonough is going to be playing the William Birkin. So again, it seems like initially we're going to have a culmination of the plots of Resident Evil 1 and 2, because we've got the original characters, but we've also got Claire and Leon.
Yeah.
And William Birkin.
That has me slightly worried. Yeah.
Yes, it's same. That concerns me.
Because I feel like the thing is, we don't know what the runtime is at this point. So the thing is, if we want to do a good Resident Evil introduction origin movie, where obviously we have the cast of the original Resident Evil, we got Chris, we have Jill, Wesker. I'm sure at some point we'll get casting information for like Rebecca, maybe Barry, whoever else might be in it, even if they are in it.
What if we don't?
I'll cry.
That's
I need some Rebecca in my life. But think about it. If you throw Leon and Claire in there in a first movie, so we have both Resident Evil 1 and 2 combining, how are they going to manage their time and get the story right, or at least have enough time explaining it? I mean, because it could be something as simple as maybe they just show up at the end for the preview for the next movie, or maybe we just slowly get an idea of what their characters are like from, talking from the cast that's part of the Resident Evil 1. It's got a lot of opportunity to kind of push back the initial start of the movie. So I'm trying to think what their idea is going with that.
Yeah, I suppose in a way, what we could see is a skimming over of certain plot lines that we may not want skimming over. But again, it'll all depend on runtime. Now that you've seen the cast, or what is anticipated to be the cast, many things have changed. We're living in an unprecedented situation. What are your initial thoughts? Is there anything that really sticks out to you as really good, or anything that sticks out to you as really bad? Let us know your thoughts.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. So to be honest, I know there's a lot of controversy with people right now on the actual casting. Now, when it comes to me, I love Resident Evil. No matter what it is, I'll enjoy it. I'll love it. I'll stick by it. Now, with the casting with this particular movie, I got to tell you, I'm actually pretty satisfied. Now, the main characters for Claire and Chris, I think they're perfect. They fit their role perfectly. They're acting. I've seen it before. I mean, I think these are two really good parts. But I know that the two biggest ones right now, obviously, are the casting that they had for not only Leon, but for Jill, which are our two main, popular characters. Now, for me personally, I don't see any problem with it. I've looked at their backgrounds. I've looked at all the different stuff they've done, their acting. I've done the comparisons. I think they have the opportunity to make those characters their own and to really help us love them. Birkin looks good. I've seen what he can do. He looks amazing. Give that guy a wig or let his hair grow out. He looks like Birkin to a T.
I think Neil McDonough is going to do a great job as Birkin. I do think that's going to happen.
Yep. And he's an excellent actor too. Like most of the roles he's done, he's played a villain or the bad guy for the most part. The only acting that I am worried about, don't get me wrong, I like the character. I like the shows he's been in, but the guy that they have playing for Wesker, I don't know. From everything I've seen from him, from movies, shows, I mean, him in the Umbrella Academy, he's a good actor. I enjoy him. But I think out of the cast that we have right now, he doesn't seem the role that we need him to be. And I could be completely wrong. Like he could blow it away and be the best Wesker we have ever seen on screen. But overall, I think he's the one person that I'm the most concerned about. Let's see, like Hannah, was it Hannah that was an Ant-Man and the Wasp who played the villain in that? Or was it Kaya?
Oh, I think it was Hannah. I might need to do just a quick back check on that.
It was the one playing Jill Valentine, correct?
Yes, she's the one that played Ghost in Ant-Man versus Ant-Man and the Wasp, and she did an amazing job. Like she's a good actor. I know, Matt, you have your own opinions on this. So, what do you think personally?
Okay, so I feel like Neil McDonough is a great casting choice because he's just a great character actor. That he knows how to play characters. He's really good at that. I don't know who this gentleman is from the Umbrella Academy who's playing Wesker, but I watched a little bit of it, and I just to look at like how he is, and I've seen how he's built. He definitely could be Wesker. I just don't know that much about him to judge whether his acting is good enough to where he can do it. But I do think he has the build and the stature for it. Now, for Chris Redfield, I don't know this actor. I don't know him at all. But I do know what he looks like. And he does absolutely look like Chris Redfield. He looks like Chris Redfield in Casual. Like he has the build, he has the face, he has the look, he has everything. I don't really know him as an actor. I guess he's from something called Upload. I started to watch a little bit. I guess it's like a drama. I don't really know. He looks like him. I know that much. That's it. Now for Leon, I'm torn because he looks like he could be Leon. I mean, granted, he has darker hair, but his facial structure, he could be Leon. He really could with like makeup and maybe some like, movie magic. He really could be Leon. I've seen this actor before. He played Aladdin, and he was also Beck from Victorious. I don't know if you grew up watching that. But he was the pretty boy character. And that's all I've ever seen of him. So I guess he kind of can do it, maybe. But it also depends on how they're going to display Leon. I mean, he looks like he could do it with movie magic. He doesn't look, his facial structure is not that off. Claire Redfield, I don't know this person, but she looks like she looks like Claire Redfield. That's all I could say about her. I don't know her. I guess she was in Pirates of the Caribbean. Now for Jill Valentine, I'm really torn because the actress is fantastic. I just don't know if she looks like Jill. She looks like she could be Jill, maybe. Personally, I don't think she's really Jill Valentine, but I feel like her acting skill could maybe display the character really well. I really don't know. Like I said, when it comes to Resident Evil and the films, I'm just so skeptical how characters are displayed and how they look. And because look at Chris Redfield and Claire in the last films. They were off.
Wentworth Miller.
Yes.
What was all that about?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm just really super skeptical.
You mean the Claire from the original movies?
Yeah.
I enjoyed her.
Ali Larter, wasn't it? Ali Larter?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed her. I thought she was really good. The characters from the original, I mean, the original Jill we had, definitely her, Claire, but everyone else was just kind of like they were a one and done character. And, by the time we got to the end of the movie, they killed everyone off screen. So, I mean, we really didn't get too much to work with. Barry was there for 30 minutes. Ada was like a one-shot movie thing.
PewDiePie Leon.
Leon did not look like Leon.
Yeah, three sentences.
But this is a point I don't want to be like a heel or a bad guy when I say this.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of criticism recently, and we're not going to get into the political undertones of the of the discussion, but the long and the short of it is the complexions are slightly different. The complexions are slightly different of the actors than their game counterparts. But I would like to say, and this is prevalent with all types of adaptations, and that is, we are not looking for a one-to-one. We're not. Everyone say, "Oh, I hope it has the man. Oh, I hope it has this scene. I hope it has this scene. I hope it has this scene." But
right.
We don't want to see, and it's a very fine line, but we don't want to see a one-to-one remake of the games, because we might as well just play the games. Exactly. We need to see a version of it, an adaptation. I mean, in the word adaptation, it's an adaptation. It's somebody's own rendition of that particular media. So, but this is typical fans, where not just Resident Evil fans, but across the board. I hope that they look like this and they act like this and they do this, because then what you're doing is you're actually stripping the director, the writers of their artistic integrity with the source material, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. And the reference point of that, I appreciate this is a very elongated point, but the reference point of that for me is The Boys. The Boys is nothing. Well, it vaguely shares similarities with the comics, but it's nowhere near what the comics image identity is compared to the series. And the series smashed it out of the park. So when you give, if you give directors, writers, actors that artistic integrity, I'm not saying don't use the characters as reference points, but we need to see something additional. We don't just want Leon to be the Leon in the game. I know that seems like a very arse about face way of saying it, but we might as well just play the games if all we want is, or we might as well just go on YouTube and type Resident Evil 2 game movie or Resident Evil remake game movie. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the way fandom is sometimes it jeopardizes the artistic integrity of filmmakers?
See, the thing is, I think it can, but I'm also the kind of Resident Evil fan who just wants more Resident Evil content at the characters that I love. So if the characters display, I mean, if it's the same story and it's just a different iteration of it, but the characters are spot on, like as a fan, you already have an expectation of what they're going to be. So I guess like if there's a disconnect from like how the fan base sees a character and how well a film team sees a character, that can mess up like immersion and thus saying like, oh, this movie sucks because Leon didn't act like Leon, didn't look like Leon.
And that's what I meant about the reference point.
Yeah.
You should always, Leon is a simp to Ada. That should carry through into the fucking films. Leon is a rookie police officer. Well, again, they might make a few changes with that. I can see that happening. But Leon is ultimately a very caring man. He cares about people. He wants to get people out to sea. That's always the image I had of Leon. They might change his age. They might change the story of how he got into Raccoon City. Because in Resident Evil, and this is a complete digression, but in Resident Evil 1.5, Leon wasn't meant to be a rookie cop. He was meant to just be a cop that just wants to help people. So I can see them making a little bit of a change. I guess
that wouldn't bother me so much, but like we come to know that Leon as a rookie cop, so it's for diehard fans like you and me, we would understand that, but like a majority of the audience wouldn't. And like I feel like Resident Evil 2 Remake Leon was fantastic. That's my favorite Leon. He felt young. He felt like a rookie. He felt like every time he had the gun, he like, oh shit. Like, what am I gonna do? That felt like a true Leon S. Kennedy to me. I mean, I really like that character, and that would be the character that I'd like to see displayed in this movie if they display him as a rookie cop. Something just like Resident 2 Remake. Yeah, I mean, some people would make the argument, oh, but if you want to do that, then just play the game. Oh, I mean, you're right, but like. I'm the kind of fan who just loves Resident Evil content, and I want, like I said, I want to see the continuation of those characters being displayed as the character as we've come to know them. That's kind of why I don't like Resident Evil 4 Leon, because I don't know who that person is. But I digress. We're not talking about that.
See, I think that's why it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me, because one, at the same time, we have the characters that we love their personality, the games they've been in, we know who they are. But now we have this opportunity for a new movie. We have our actors. We have it set up. We have a new plot that we don't 100% know about yet, whether it's going to be something that's completely like the games or it's just going to filter in and be its own thing. I mean, for all we know, we could watch this movie. It could be completely nothing like we think it is. The characters could be completely different. The personalities could change, whatever it might be. And it might just be its own little perfect slice of heaven. I mean, the idea that we're getting something new with Resident Evil is the same thing that Andy said. This is something that's completely new. We're used to the fact that, Leon's a simp. Leon's a loving, helpful character that wants to help people. Jill's this, I'm a strong girl. I can do whatever I need. I don't need your help. We're used to these characters for the games, but at the same time, now we have something where this is an actual reboot. I mean, because that's what it's classified as. It could be amazing.
No, Steve, that's what scares me too.
Yeah,
because that means it's a reboot, it's a retelling, it's a reimagining. So the character that you came to know, that's not this character. Oh, that's great.
That worked. That worked for Resident Evil 2. I think.
Yeah, well, yes, because they somewhat kept those core characters, but like also opened them up more and showed them more as what they were, like, because the only thing what we knew of Resident Evil 2, Leon and Claire, is what we were given, and which was in 1998, which we can only see pixels and bad voice acting. Whereas in Resident 2 Remake, we saw their expressions when they got bit. They winced in pain. They grunted really hard. Like it sounded real. Like I said, with Leon or Claire opening to go shoot a zombie. They shot in the head. It gets back up. You go back to aim again. They're like, okay, now what? They literally say that. Like, now what do I do?
Yeah, you get to experience the personalities, the fears, the acting of those characters.
You fucking feel that.
You get attached. And that's nice. I mean, it's hard to say that from the classic games. Don't get me wrong. I am an OG fan. So like OG 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica, I love those games. But nowadays, especially with the updated information, the renderings, the new engines that we have, it's so much easier to get attached to a character. and like their personality and like what they're doing. You get to experience the game with them. You're not just playing the game. This is something that's new for both of you. And I think that's why it's been so easy to like those characters. Now, up until Resident Evil 3 Remake, and don't get me wrong, I like 3 Remake. It's on such a different personal level. Because, you're like, okay, well, I know what happens to this character and this character from the OGs, but it's literally a retelling of something that you liked from the past to see if it's something you like more or if you still like the old one.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you because to me, I kind of meshed the two.
Yeah.
So I meshed the two together, and then like I get this own little headcanon in my head. So and what I'm scared with these films is that a lot of the time, I would like to say on the behalf of most of the fan base, most of them, and I use that word very loosely, is that we all kind of have the same, thoughts in our head when it comes to the OG and the remake and these characters, and even when they go into their own other games besides these two. Mm-hmm. We know what they've been through. We know what they came to be. Like I said earlier, like we've seen them struggle and what they got to overcome. With a film, it's hard to also get actors that feel that. If these actors don't know these characters or have never studied these characters or never experienced these characters, they're just not going to display the person these characters we've come to know and love. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen fan-made films or anything like that. When they've played these characters, they're fans. These actors are fans. So they know these characters and they display them with such passion. It looks really good. Like that one Resident Evil fan-made drama. What was it called, Andy?
Oh,
Arclight?
Dave, was it?
Or Dave? Dave.
Arclight,
You could see that they were like these were fans, and they went into passion and like into depth of like looking at the items and stuff like that to like examine them like you would in a game. Like these people know how the games work and how they immersed us. I'm just hoping that this director and these characters can do the same thing.
Well. We have a direct quote from the director, Johannes Roberts. He has stated his vision for the movie, and it's a scary one. So with this movie, I really wanted to go back to the original first 2 games and create the terrifying, visceral experience I had when I first played them, whilst at the same time telling a grounded human story about a small dying American town that feels both relatable and relevant to today's audiences. So to me, they're already off on the fucking right foot. They really are.
Oh yeah.
Well, what does that mean? Relevant to today's audiences? Well, does that mean they're going to mix something modern into it? I
like how that whole section was amazing, and you picked the last word.
I'm sorry. And the thing is, like, that gives me hope. For that first sentence gives me hope. I want the people to feel what they have, like what I felt when I experienced it. That gives me so much hope. But then what is that little snippet of? Okay, but what did you mean by that? It just makes me nervous.
Well, see, I think that's a good thing. Because to be honest, I think that we are already in better hands than we were with the previous trilogy.
I agree with you.
It's on the right start. The thing is, it really comes down to the producers, the directors, and everything. Because in most cases, usually they want them to look at the source material. They want to, be what's the word? Method actors, where they research it, they play it, they act it, they live it. And honestly, hopefully that's what they're telling these actors to do or getting them souped up for. It's really going to come down to what they're allowed to work with. Because at the end of the day, they are actors. They're going to make it their role, of course, but that is only in the limitations of what they're allowed to do. So we just have to kind of really hope on to the idea there that they get to make it their own thing, that they stick with the sources, even if we're getting new content as well, but really make it what Resident Evil is. And let's be honest, Resident Evil is a survival horror. Sure, there might be a little bit of drama. We're going to get some gore, some action. It's going to happen. But at the end of the day,
horror franchise.
But yeah, I have a lot of faith in it. I think that they have plenty of time right now to really work with it, sit down, go over what they want, what the fans want, what they're expecting after what. I mean, final chapter came out, what, 4 or 5 years ago, and we've only had the CGI movies other than that. I mean, this is a whole new thing for them. It's a make it or break it thing. And
you give me hope too, Matt, when you talk about it, because you're a big movie buff.
Mhm.
And like I trust your your instincts, and when it comes to movies, you make me feel better when you talk about it, but there's just that little snippet of like nervousness that I get. What about you, Andy? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm very excited. Now that I've seen that sentence, I actually completely forgot about that. I am really hopeful because George A. Romero, when he wrote the first Resident Evil script, which was eventually denied by Capcom in favor of Paul W.S. Anderson, he actually made, and it's been well documented, he made his secretary sit down and play the first Resident Evil. And while she was playing that, she was retelling her thoughts and feelings as she was playing that. So this would have been back in like 1999. So it was really fresh. Obviously, the PS1 games are really good graphics at that point. So Resident Evil was actually a scary game. Script ended up being thrown out. And then, of course, we had the Paul W.S. Anderson, which I felt like started on a really good note, and then it become the law of diminishing returns. They overexposed the character. In a lot of ways, they followed what the actual Resident Evil games were doing, ironically, which was evolving more into an action series, action horror series, rather than a full-blown survival horror. So the sentence where he says, I want to go back to the original first two games, we know that he's in the right mindset. He wants to create something scary, tense, maybe I don't know how they incorporate it because the concept is done, but maybe puzzles play a part. And I'm not talking about Goonies playing the piano and the fucking floor dropping out. I'll be very interested to see how they come up with that one, like with the keys and everything like that. And what and again, going back to my first point, what the directors do with it, because there's no point in them doing a one-to-one remake telling the exact same story with the exact same tropes. Wesker is ultimately the villain. I'd like to see how that happens, how that all comes to fruition. But my question to you guys is: we've seen the cast, and this I don't know how this is going to go in the comments, but we've seen the cast. Imagine if you were appointed by Capcom to be the director of a new Resident Evil 1. We'll keep it to Resident Evil 1. A new Resident Evil 1 reboot. Who would you have as the characters? Which actors would you have as the characters? If you've got names off the top of your head.
That's extremely difficult.
I can only think of one. It's Claire, and I would want Anna Kendrick to play Claire.
Immediately says Resident Evil 2 when I say Resident Evil 1.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, it's all good.
Resident 1? Oh, God.
I feel like I don't want to. Actually, he's got to be a younger character. But something that we have all agreed in our personal time is the role of Wesker, who should be played by 100%. I mean, to me,
me and Andy know who this should be. Yep.
Yeah. It should be. I can't remember his name. Homelander from The Boys. His name is completely
Aaron Starr or Andrew Starr, I think it is. Let me look it up here.
Yeah, Homelander. So it's Homelander from The Boys.
Anthony Starr. He would be
Anthony Starr.
Wesker. Yeah.
So just as a reference point, Anthony Starr.
I want. Oh God, that is a hard one, Andy. What's the? I want Jack Nicholson to play Barry.
I think it's the younger Hemsworth brother. I think would be a decent Chris. I mean, there's a few options that I've been kind of picturing over in my mind, and the person that they have playing Chris in this is actually really solid. The voice, the actual, like physical, like representation of him is really good. But Man, as for like the female characters and Birkin himself,
I can't even think of I keep saying Julia. I want Julia Voth to play
oh
Jill.
yeah, sure.
I want Julia Voth to play Jill. I'm sorry, I just do. What? Say it, Andrew. What?
I don't know. Oh, you got to think. Julia Voth is in her late 30s now. She has that mocap. The mocap is over 20 years old for Jill Valentine.
I don't know. She still looks like Jill Valentine to me. I follow her on Instagram.
But does she look like 23-year-old Jill Valentine in Resident Evil? Like, this is why, I mean, Carl Urban in some role, not the butcherer where he's all fucking gritty, but his older roles where I get Chris Redfield vibes from Carl Urban.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't think of the perfect Chris Redfield.
It's hard. I mean, there's options out there. Don't get me wrong, but
what about Barry?
Jack Nicholson. Honestly, but seriously, who would oh god. Vince Vaughn is too flat-faced.
This is Resident Evil. This isn't a comedy.
I know.
This isn't the Wedding Crashers. Like, we're talking about top tier names.
I don't know.
But for me, my top pick would have to be Anthony Starr as the role of Albert Wesker. This man has a shit-eating grin.
You do.
To last for days. Oh my god. This man is the heelish. He is born to be an antagonist. And I would definitely, I would be on board for an Anthony Starr, Albert Wesker. But that just about wraps up the news for this, the first piece of news we're talking about, which is the Resident Evil reboot. Again, you can read our full article on the breakdown of all characters announced so far on our website, biohazardcast.com. Be sure to check that out. Moving swiftly on. Now, this come at a complete fucking, just like all of the Resident Evil media, it's come at a complete random turn. Very poor, actually. And I did really feel sorry for Capcom because Netflix Portugal put out a tweet with the trailer to Resident Evil Infinity Darkness 2 days before TGS on a complete minus move. And it immediately fucked up TGS because we'll talk about our thoughts about TGS later when we talk about Resident Evil Village. But I reckon this could have saved it if it was a surprise.
Somebody got
this
fired.
Was their big time. That was a massive fuck up. But Infinity Darkness, it's a live action Netflix series. A series is worth knowing. We were thinking it was originally a film, but a series it is. Here is the poster, very, very cryptic. It's got Leon in his kind of RE6. Let me just go
kind of ish, yeah.
See, that's the thing we don't have too much information on, though. From what I thought, it was that this was taking place, or at least the timeline for this was between 4 and 5. Or at least that's what I thought we had heard.
That's true. But we also have this Resident Evil Revelations 2-esque Claire.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fucking it.
She looks kind of like younger than Revelations, huh?
Yeah. But what we're seeing is, and again, we'll go into the next piece of media in a sec. But what we're seeing is Netflix spaffing away their money on Resident Evil IP all of a sudden. That's another piece, another series as well. A series is a lot harder than a film to make. There's a lot more content. But not a lot is known about this. All we've got is this reveal trailer. It looks to be dark as hell. Mm-hmm. And we've got this spooky Leon sitting on a sofa.
Yeah, we got the Godfather pose.
Yeah, it's really something. I really enjoyed the animated. I felt like the animated series, bar the last film, which was just complete John Wick nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen it. I've never seen. Yeah. I've blocked everyone's them talking about it because I want to know what happens in it. I've already seen what happens to it, so it doesn't matter. But I've never seen the action scenes. I've only seen the one where they're running around and like the guns.
It's like a ballet.
Yeah. So the first two had a good combination of storyline, action, and storytelling. So what they did is they completely dumbed down the story and the actual like storyline telling, and it's just nothing but like action. It's like John Wick 3. I mean, there's the fight scene at the very end where they're literally like CQC fighting with pistols, just like shooting each other at the ground and going into circles and do a little.
I have something that I like to call caveman brain, and I love that crap. It's so fun to me, and seeing it with my favorite Resident Evil characters makes it cooler to me.
It looks great.
I know it's not what we all come to know and love, but God damn, is that fun to watch? I don't know why, but I really like. I like these CGI characters. They're obviously meant to be based off the game characters, like full-heartedly. Mm-hmm. Some people go as far as to say like it's close to what the closest we'll get to a Resident Evil adult anime kind of film. And it kind of is in a sense. I mean, and like with this new Infinite Darkness, it's actually, I believe it's listed somewhere as an adult anime on Netflix.
Oh, right. I did not know that.
Yeah. So, and what I'm hoping with this that we get with Infinite Darkness is this return of action, drama, not action. I shouldn't say that. More like a drama oriented series where like we saw when we were kind of younger. Like, obviously this one's meant for adults, which is really cool. But there's been a real lack of like adult oriented action cartoons, and like throughout the whole public like broadcasting. Like we only get them on Netflix and Amazon, so a lot of people don't know about them. So I'm hoping like with this, it does really, really well and does justice for Resident Evil, and especially it being a series, an episodic series, that excites me. That it makes me like, oh, something I can binge. That's just more Resident Evil content for me to eat up, and and it's based off characters that I already love and know, and it's got this eerie, survival horror feeling, it's great, and I think it's going to do great. I'm really excited for it.
And again, not a lot has been told. It just looks really creepy as hell. My favorite out of the animated films is probably Resident Evil Degeneration. It was a really fresh concept.
That was super.
Even had a Resident Evil 2 cameo in it, which was super sweet. And I'm a big fan of Claire and Leon. I think they've got such great on-screen chemistry for obvious reasons. But I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a series, as I said. It's not going to be a film. So I'd be very interested to see if it's going to be a limited series, if they're intending on this being something that they're going to build on and build on and build on and build on, or if it's just going to be like a one and done like Chernobyl. Very interested.
I hope that doesn't happen. I kind of hope it's like an episodic series. It gets approved for a third season. But that also concerns me because like they're gonna run out of something material.
Is there anything that doesn't concern you?
Oh, I really like my RE characters, I guess. But I am excited for this. This makes me have hope for the media franchise for Resident Evil and like films and like TV and stuff like that.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, right now it is a wonderful time to be a Resident Evil fan. Whether you're an old fan, a new fan, you're just coming into it. I mean, we got 3 multimedia movies and shows coming out. We have a new game coming out next year with others probably in the works, especially for the CGI series. I mean, not only could we get new information, we could get a new plot, new characters, what you would want. But the thing is, there's so much that they could fill in too. We could find out what Barry or Rebecca's been doing the entire time the main characters are doing this. We could go back to some kind of secret that we never got filled out in 2 and 3. Like the skies are limit right now with what they're doing.
Oh man. Do you know what? You're really like laying on layers that I completely forgot all about.
I didn't even think about that either.
Yeah. They could really use Infinite Darkness as a launch pad for plot hole filling. Fucking crazy.
That's interesting, Matt. I like that. I didn't even think about that.
Like, think about it. They could do pretty much anything that they want to do. I mean, the movie is more of a grounded thing. I mean, we for the most part know what we're looking forward to.
What makes me I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Matt, but I want to get this notion in there. This series, the guy who's directing it is also directly in contact with Capcom. Like he has ties, like he's like okaying stuff with Capcom. Like, hey, is this IP to use with this character? Is this character, can I use this character? This, and that. Like he's actually there working with Capcom. So if Capcom really wanted and bring back returning characters that we haven't seen in a while, they really could.
I finally think they're listening, and I finally think we're heading in the right direction. I mean, the outcome is more bright than bleak when it comes to these new movies and shows. I think we finally have the right people helming it. I think we finally have the right, media help from Capcom as well as the fans themselves. It's such a great opportunity for them. I mean, they're putting a lot on the line. Don't get me wrong, yes, but it shows that they care. It shows that they know that people are still interested. It shows that the fan base is still there and that this could be something big. And I'm just happy that it'd be a part of it, It's nice. This is the most active the Resident Evil trilogies has ever been, to be honest. Sure, I mean, we had like the OG games coming out back to back each year. For a while, we had the Paul Anderson movies. Yeah. But we have never had so much being done by Capcom for one title in such a long time. I feel like they finally are saying, like, Resident Evil is our baby. Let's take care of this.
Yeah, and do you know what? I don't think this is just from a visual media point, like a series or a movie point of view. I think this is for the games too. Yep. I really think we've got, especially with the 2 and 3, we've really got the right people at the wheel here to push Resident Evil forward. I still think they're absolutely brilliant. I know people are reserved about Resident Evil 3, but I really enjoyed Resident Evil 2 and 3, and it's almost like they've woken up and they've gone, oh my God, we've got this expansive series which goes over like 50 years of lore. There's so much stuff we can go into that we just haven't done up until now because we've just passed the role over to Paul W.S. Anderson, and let's be honest, kind of fucked it up. So, yeah,
kind of a gentle word.
Yeah, but Paul W.S. Anderson is known for his other adaptations like Mortal Kombat, etc., etc. And he was just absolutely pumped full of money to make these. And I think for the most part, they have been commercial successes. It's just from a critical point of view, they've not been any substance whatsoever, except from some film.
Yeah. So rest in peace, Monster Hunter.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the trailer dropped to that, and I was. I'm not a Monster Hunter fan. I don't claim to know a lot about the lore, but I saw that and I thought, this is probably not what Monster Hunter is meant to be.
Nope.
Oh, it was the immediate red flag for Monster Hunter fans.
I love Monster Hunter, and I love Resident Evil. I hate Paul W. Anderson.
Love Resident Evil, hate Paul W.S. Anderson. That should be a t-shirt.
He did Event Horizon, so I can't be upset with him about that.
Event Horizon was good.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like, especially with the movies that he did, let's be honest, we got 7 movies from him. It started out well. I loved the first movie. I love the ending. I still think that ending with her panning out, seeing Raccoon City already in shambles, cocking the shotgun, was the best way you could end something. We get into 2. It's like, okay, we're in Raccoon City. This is awesome. This is fun. Okay, there's Nemesis. And then you get to the part where it's like, okay, well, she's fighting Nemesis fist to fist, and she's now making people explode with her mind. Oh, and she's a clone. And it's just like, where do we go from there?
Yeah, she's a clone. She copies the scene from Code Veronica with the running machine gun. And then
they completely jump over the plot. It's like, okay, well, the third movie, what could they do? The entire world is a desert. Okay, all right, more clones. I mean, if you weren't
fourth one, just Resident Evil 5, the movie.
Yeah.
Then Retribution was this weird fucking. It was almost like Metal Gear Solid VR missions, but for fucking Resident Evil films.
Yeah.
Is that so?
I bet you thought you'd never hear that crossover. And then, of course, I'm sure after that it was the final chapter.
Final chapter. And I think that's what the nail in the coffin always was, though the nail was there since the third movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember going in kind of being like, okay, well, they're going to end it. This could be good. They still have all these main characters. And the movie literally opens explaining that they killed off half the main characters. You never see Leon again. You never see Ada again. Jill's completely gone. I don't know where Chris is. Like all the main characters just didn't want to come back for the movie. It was so tragic. So what they thought, they're like, okay, well, what can we do? Oh, let's end it where we started it. Let's go back to Raccoon City. Let's go back to the Hive, and just seeing Wesker get killed by a door just completely, I can't.
Man, they better keep doors away from fucking unless that's some rib on fucking door loading scenes or something. That is, it kills you in suspense or something. But yeah, poor Wesker should stay away from all doors in the new reboot. I do not want to see Wesker be killed by a door. That's that's just bad fucking.
Not even a good death. Like it fell on his hand
writing.
And he just couldn't move, and then the explosion got him. Yep.
I don't know what you're talking about because I stopped watching after the third movie. That's how much I hated it.
Yeah.
Oh, I went to see it hammered in theaters and I still couldn't enjoy it.
I just felt like they weren't creative enough because they thought, oh well, like for example, Afterlife. Oh, Resident Evil 5 is a critical success. Let's just make a move. And this is why I think it's dangerous if we follow the trend of trying to. I'm not saying that Afterlife is a complete one-to-one remake of Resident Evil 5, but it had so much random shitty fan service in it. We don't want to see that. What we want to see is good writing by competent people. That's all we want to see. And I don't think that's a terrible thing.
No, not at all. Like I said, I already think it's in better hands than it ever could have been with what we had with Paul Ashton. But
I don't know who this director is for the new one. So I just, like I said, I'm just.
So final thoughts on Infinity Darkness, bringing this back to the into the frame.
I think it's good. I think it's great. I think they had someone who's directly connected to Capcom working on it. We're seeing characters, which is awesome because Claire Redfield and Leon S. Kennedy, but people love them. They're iconic. They're in a lot of games. A lot of people love them, and now they're coming back in this series to continue on with like their arc and the lore that we love from the games. It's just going to be fantastic. And like now Matt has opened this thing in my head, like we can get returning characters. Like imagine we do see Ark Thompson again, Leon S. Kennedy's good friend, because they're good friends.
I did not think the first character that would come out of your mouth is Ark Thompson. Like all of the Resident Evil characters you could have said, I wish we would have seen Ark Thompson.
Well, I'm just saying, these good friends with Leon S. Kennedy, and
he is best boys.
They go to the bar every other night. So I'm saying, I think it'd be cool to see stuff like that. First, all of a sudden, we see Bruce McGivern. Whoa, okay, cool.
Every just poorly written character. Yeah, I hope we see the. I hope we see the guy that gets his head cut off from Resident Evil 5 at the start.
We'll get the origin story of Irving.
The origin story of Irving.
Well,
Population zero.
They could be like, okay, well, these 2 episodes are going to be focused on the Revelations. Like, just think about it. Think about like the games that we had. Think about like some of the like classic games that weren't necessarily the main trilogy, just kind of they're all from their own things. They could literally do episodes or like they could literally do an entire trilogy off of those. What's happening to Leon during this time period? What's going on in Revelations 2? What is Barry and Rebecca doing in this certain aspect? Bring Billy back. Show me Billy doing something. I don't care. Him transforming into Nemesis. I don't care.
It would be really cool to actually just see just like the cast of Resident Evil just in like what they're doing in like during these scenes, like all of a sudden we do see Jill, we do see Chris, we do see Rebecca, we do see Wesker, we do see these people, or
we do see Ark Thompson,
Sheba Olimar, like it'd be cool, like, or they're mentioned. That would just the diehard RE fan in me would just be like.
Like what have we really seen? Like we've seen characters meet up throughout the games, but like the biggest thing was what recently in 6 where we got to see Leon and Chris finally meet in person on screen and have that conflict. Could you imagine an episode where they have all of the main characters or all of Stars and Leon and Claire all together, even if just for a second, just seeing the entire path.
That'd be amazing. It'd be absolutely, as a Resident Evil fan, that just sounds amazing. And I'm sure I speak for most of people in the art community that say, "Oh, it'd be cool to see all those characters and in one setting." That'd just be amazing.
This harkens back to the point: is this going to be a limited series, or is it going to be a
Continuous,
an actual continuous series? Because that's going to be because all we're going to. I mean, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness could really just be a movie that's over 4 episodes.
Yeah, right.
Which I'm also okay with.
I think they'll play it safe like Netflix normally does. I mean, they'll get a certain amount of episodes, let's say 6 to 8 to start. They'll give us some, basic core ideas and information. And if it does well, they'll open it up to new series. But yeah, that's a difficult question to answer because, like I said, there's a finite pool of stuff that they can pull from.
And then Capcom will also Capcom's, they don't want certain properties being used because they're already going to be using them or don't want them a part of that media.
Or to recycle it, yeah.
Yeah, which is really weird to say, seeing as Resident Evil 2 Remake came out not even less than 3 years ago, and they're already reusing Claire and Leon. I think it's not even 2 years almost. So.
Well, it makes sense because they're big characters from the past, but now the new Resident Evil fans and the people playing the games are like, oh, we really like these characters. They're popular. They're like, okay, ka-ching, let's bring out the next one.
And I completely agree. It's just, I wonder if they don't want to use certain characters or the director's only allowed to use certain characters or only these 2 characters. It's just,
Yeah.
Again, it makes me nervous.
And as with anything that's going to be Resident Evil Infinity Darkness related, we Biohazard Declassified, biohazardcast.com. We'll try and bring you as much information as we can first. And if Netflix Portugal's got anything to do with it, we'll probably bring it to you first.
We'll bring it to everybody first.
F in the chat for Netflix Portugal there and their excellent social media team. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But swiftly moving on, and if there hasn't been enough Resident Evil movie-based lore or movie and series-based lore or upcoming stuff, we've got another series which is also entitled just Resident Evil currently. We'd been saying it on biohazardcast.com for a very, very long time. Thought this was a myth. We did get a snippet on Wayback Machine, which said that, and it was literally like an archive thing from Netflix saying it was going to be set in Maryland or something like that.
Clearfield,
Maryland, wasn't it, or something like that. That happened. No one actually knew what was going on, but the official Netflix Twitter on August 27th, so a couple of months old now. They have actually put out a tweet with the front page of the script, as you can see here, written by Andrew Dabb and directed by Bronwyn Hughes. So they've already got that penned in. Another series. So again, opens up. Is this going to be a Netflix series, a limited series, or if it's going to be a continuous series? According to the Hollywood Reporter, and this is for the benefit of our listeners on Spotify, the Netflix series will tell its new story axis from 2 timelines. In the first, 14-year-old sisters Jade and Billy Wesker are moving to New Raccoon City, a manufactured corporate town forced on them right as adolescence is in full swing. But the more time they spend there, the more they come to realize that the town is more than it seems, and their father may be concealing dark secrets that could destroy the world. The second, more than a decade into the future, less than 15 million people left on Earth, and more than 6 billion monsters, people and animals infected with the T-virus, so T-virus makes an appearance. Jade, now 30, struggles to survive in this new world, while the secrets from her past about her sister, her father, and herself continue to haunt her, assuming her sister Billy is actually dead because it's not actually brought up. But that is the synopsis of the new Resident. We're going to call this the Wesker Children series to avoid any confusion with anything else. Mm-hmm. This come out first out of all of the Resident Evil news, and I know I've done it in this order because I wanted to talk about the others first. It is worth noting that this come out first, or the information, the news about this come out first. At that point, I did feel like what the fuck are they doing?
Yep.
I have no direction what they're going in. But now we have this other content coming out.
Mhm.
I feel this is the Resident Evil Village of series, or the Resident Evil 7 and Village of series, where they're going to take Resident Evil in a completely different fucking way. And I think that's good, because I think if we would have had another series which is a remake of something else, it wouldn't have worked. This now works because the other film exists. Because imagine if they did a Netflix film and a Netflix series. I already think it's bad that Leon is being used in a film and also in a anime, adult anime, for use of a better term. I think that's weird because it's like two characters, the one character, but they could be interpreted as two different fucking characters entirely. But what do you guys think? The series is going to be 8 1-hour-long episodes. What do you think?
So personally, I mean, we've been hearing rumors about this show for probably at least a year or two, just stuff floating around, not really knowing what was true or what was not. At first, when I heard about this, I was like, okay, so this is the most recent adaptation we're going to get screen-wise for Resident Evil. I was suspicious. I mean, most people were. We didn't really get that plot that you had just read us until recently. That's something I don't think that has come out until this year. But at first I was just like, this can't be. They have so much to pick from. They have so much that they can do. They have so much they can reboot, work with. Like, why is this the first thing we're going to? But now, knowing that we have this live action movie that's going to be more creditable and more loyal to the source, we have this CGI version that is basically the continuation storylines or additional storylines to the games. The plot doesn't sound like it's something that disinterests me anymore. It could be amazing. This is a whole new idea that we're working with. Okay, so they're going with the whole like previous movies where the world is pretty much overtaken by the virus. There's only so many humans left. It's interesting to see that kind of a survival story as well. And jumping from the idea from one time period to another using Wesker, I mean, the children of Wesker, which is the main villain from the series that we've only had like 2 to 3 games to really identify with and play with. It could be really good. I mean, but then again, it's the same thing with the other movies and the shows. We don't know what we're quite getting into yet. But knowing that the T-virus is still existing, knowing that this is still Raccoon City, the new Raccoon City, and seeing a whole new post-apocalyptic world that is built off the idea of the viruses from Resident Evil and the storyline, it could end up being something really good.
I disagree.
Imagine my shock.
This sounds like bullocks. It sounds like honestly, I'm somewhat, because since we've been hearing so much about this for so long, I'm hoping that this has production issues and it doesn't come to fruition, because it sounds terrible in my personal opinion. I don't know how they're going to execute it. We don't know it sounds like this whole series is an afterthought. Like, they gave it to some, hey, you can use these certain IPs, make something. Can I use it? Whatever. Like, it doesn't sound like something that's structural. It just sounds like it could be just like a drama Netflix is looking to fill for their time slot. And it sounds like if it does come to fruition, I don't know. It just doesn't interest me as a Resident Evil fan. And like I said, Resident Evil and film, when they intertwine, are like oil and water. Sometimes they don't, like, they really sometimes don't. They really most of the time don't mix. And this sounds like, no, I'm just saying this sounds like more of this is an oil. Like, this Wesker now has 2 daughters. That, like, is the character that we've come to know and who he is. That this doesn't sound like Wesker at all. But this also leads me to believe, like, is it Albert Wesker? Maybe it isn't. I just don't know.
However, what we do know, because there's a lot of we're discussing a lot of hypotheticals, and we should do, because we have to kind of debate what we think is going to be coming up, but we're never going to know until an official trailer gets released on all of the media we've spoken about today. But it is worth noting, and I feel like no one's really talking about this element, and I've only just spotted it now, actually, and I had to just quickly back check it. There's a Constantine film logo in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Constantine Film, who are also doing the reboot. This is going to be linked.
Yep.
Has to be. Not in name only, obviously, but why would they pursue? Why would Constantine Films make two pieces of Resident Evil media which are far different? Because I don't believe that and I'm just about to back check it. I might look like a right knobhead if it's wrong. I don't believe Infinity Darkness is going to be. It's going to be Constantine Film.
No, I don't. No, I don't
just
think
back
so.
check that. Yeah. So, what do you guys think about that? About how Constantine Film is also the runner for not only the series but also the rebooted film.
Well, they're two different directors, right?
Yeah, it will be. I mean, it'd be in different style because making something for Netflix would be different, and it'd be completely different.
Like, so I mean, I just feel like it's still going to be a disconnect. I don't think they are going to. I mean, you see, I didn't know that though. I didn't see that the Constantine film at the corner, so that could lead me to believe that they are going to be connected. But if there's two different I don't know. They just sound like two different, completely different media types. One sounds like a drama that is set for a more relevant audience for nowadays, like a post-apocalyptic world in these scary times, but it's also a drama like The Walking Dead. That's what this sounds like to me. Whereas the other one sounds like a really good reboot of the game movie adaptations. They sound like two different things to me, but I didn't know that the Constantine Films was also on the Netflix thing. So now, to be honest, I'm conflicted. What about you, man?
The teams are working together.
I've just had word from my producer that, that actually I'm full of complete shit, and both teams are actually working together in a preview article that will be coming out shortly on biohazardcast.com. We've just had some thoughts about from the showrunner who's going to be doing the Netflix series, and he openly comes out and he's detailed it here. So it's actually all under the same banner because the same company has the rights to both. The movie is much a dramatization of the first two games a little bit. The story we're telling is a bit of a continuation of the game where all 8 games are kind of the backstory. We're doing some new things. So throw the baby out with the bathwater there, boys. I'm starting that again. This isn't news that is to myself. I've invented this whole story.
But they still sound like two different things of media to me, but they are going to be connected. They're working together. So they are going to be connected. I just, whoa. And see, now I'm thinking about a bunch of stuff that I really don't know how. I'm lost for words, boys.
And again, just touching base on how we feel like Resident Evil as a company, as a vision, everybody is starting to come together on the same hymn sheet, and everybody knows what they want out of Resident Evil, and they've all got the same similar vision. And that just a couple of notes to pick up on. So this is Andrew Dabb, who's the showrunner for the new. He's writing the new Wesker Kids Netflix series for Resident Evil. The lesson I got from working on Supernatural is that you work better with the things that you love. I really love Supernatural, and I think that's why I was able to not get fired for so many years. When it comes to new things, I've really looked at things I knew I would love. I love Resident Evil, the game, the characters, and the story. So initially, I think really good vibes, to be honest.
That makes me feel better on what the actual product that we're going to receive. It makes me feel like, okay, I am a fan. I do love this. I do love this franchise, and I do want the fans to know that. I want the fans to know, guys, I like it too, and I want you guys to like it as much as I want you guys to love it as much as I love it. And so that makes me feel 100 times better. I'm still a little conflicted on that series that for Netflix with the Wesker children. I'm like, do we know if it's Albert Wesker, if there's some kind of other story element? There are Wesker children. I wonder if that has something to do with it. They tie that in somehow.
Well,
so,
if the series is going to specifically go with the ending or the continuation of the games, that means whether they confirmed Wesker living or dying at the end of 5 really plays a big thing into it. Because we haven't really had any type of multimedia that's explained it other than like some secret snippets in certain games. I'm thinking this is going to be a Wesker relative, not Wesker's actual daughters.
That's what I'm sort of thinking right now too. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of it's up in the air right now, especially now saying that like apparently the reboot movie series is going to be, I guess, a retelling. Obviously, we know it's a retelling, and then like the Wesker children's series is going to continue on from that. Which I wonder if it'd be really cool to see, niches and notches from the other one. From like we'll see something continue in the series that we saw in the movie, and like, oh crap, that's the kind of stuff that's really immersive. And the Resident Evil games did that very well. Maybe that's his nod of actually doing it in the films as well. That makes me feel even more better. But we'll see if that's actually what happens.
Yeah, there's so much potential with this series. But we're going to have a live action Resident Evil series and an anime Resident Evil series. As an overarching point to all of this, are we experiencing too much Resident Evil now?
God, no.
I think we're finally getting everything that we were overdue for. Yeah. I think it's the right amount.
I'm ready, baby. This is the year of Resident Evil. I'm really, I'm like I said, even though the films, a lot of it's film oriented, but what we're getting sounds promising. It does.
Don't we have information on the first episode? Didn't we have information on that specifically?
Yeah. So it seems like the first Resident Evil Wesker Kids script has already been leaked online. I won't provide a copy. You'll be able to find it somewhere out there in the wild. But a copy of the script is out there. So if you want to review it at your own leisure and see what the first episode's about, I completely forgot about that. Actually, I might have a gander at it and see what's occurring and see what the films are, the themes are. Excuse me, and the comparisons to the game. But I'll take it on its own merit. I feel like adaptions aren't always bad if they're done correctly, and they can be different if they're done correctly, of course.
Mm-hmm. Of course. We have Jesse Does Horror to thank for that as well.
Yeah, and that's at Jesse Does Horror on Twitter.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you very much for that.
To go back to your question, I don't think we're getting too much RE. I think we are eating up everything that they're giving us.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there can't be enough RE. I just feel like this is the perfect timing. I mean, because we honestly are getting all the original fans back to what they loved before. We're getting new fans every day, enjoying the movies, the games, the lore, the backstory, everything. There's so much that Resident Evil has to offer. And not everyone likes the same amount of material or content, which is absolutely fine. But that's what we're getting. We're getting a little bit of everything. I can't see why.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. It's really. I feel like I'm getting attacked by all angles, and I don't see that necessarily initially as a bad thing. It could if they all turn out to be absolute cow dung. That can be a very bad thing. But so from an initial look, and we might have egg on our face, or we might come out to be the next messiah. But I think we're off to a good start here. Mm-hmm. Everything we've discussed so far has been positive. It's been the Resident Evil that we know and love, but new adaptations of them. But that kind of concludes all of the movie or the visual media element of this podcast. I would like to now discuss what kind of bringing it back to Resident Evil Village. As anybody that's been following Biohazard Declassified for a little while, we've been at the absolute forefront of Resident Evil 8 Village news. We were one of the first people to find out that it was called Village, and that they was going to be using the Roman numerals in the title to say Village. It wasn't going to be called Resident Evil 8 Village, just Resident Evil Village. We were at the forefront of all of the different playtest rumors, that people have gone to and traveled to different places to exclusively play Resident Evil Village, and they actually told us their experiences. Again, as with anything, Capcom throws a baby out of bathwater enough times in their in their life. Do not be shocked if they throw all of that news out. But if you want to check that out, biohazardcast.com, shameless plug, but definitely check it out. We've got a whole bunch of Resident Evil Village news. But what I want to speak about specifically is that Resident Evil's TGS outing. And we all actually sat down and watched TGS live. Really, really bizarre because it was split across 3 days, 2 or 3 days. They showed a bit at the start and then showed exactly the same at the end. What was going on? Matt K.
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely excited. We were definitely reporting on that, getting ready to look at all the information that they provided, watching live and discussing everything with everyone. And you know what? They did give us some information. I mean, as much as it was minimal compared to what we expected. I mean, we got information based off of the game. You know, they started talking about how they were trying to work on the fact that they could do it for previous generation systems as well as the new generation systems. A lot of us were hoping for things like, you know, like maybe a game demo or a release date or just some updated information. But I do remember that we really didn't get too much. I mean, they said big news was coming for us in September. It was really supposed to be, I think, in August. And the second day, we didn't get anything. I mean, if you want to touch more on that, you can, of course. But I mean, I think we got the basic information we were waiting for. We did get a second trailer that kind of gave us a little bit more of a glimpse of what we were expecting. We got a few moments of seeing Ethan walk through the mansion, crawl through some tunnels, a few more views of the villains and enemies. But past that, I think they're really trying to keep this under wraps.
No. Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I know
This motherfucker does not like anything.
No, it's just I've been writing and studying and researching for like what feels like 2 weeks. So what I don't understand is that basically what they had for TGS from what we knew, they were going to give us information in August. That didn't happen. I don't know why it didn't happen. Then we went to the Sony PlayStation the PS5 showcase. So we got the showcase. We didn't know if there was going to be a Resident Evil thing. We didn't think there was. There was no announcement. No, they didn't tweet. You know, they didn't say anything prior. So we just did it because we have hope. Luckily enough, they did show us a new trailer. Kind of. They showed us like 2 or 3 new cuts that we haven't seen before. We saw a closer up of the enemies. We saw whoever this old woman is, she's preaching something about that the villagers that we see later in the same trailer, we saw like one new villager and a new scene where they're all holding hands, saying this same chant to the old lady who we thought was supposed to be the merchant, but we don't think it is anymore. Mm-hmm. They're chanting the same thing, and now we're hearing about this Mother Miranda. Then we get a certain maybe snippet of a new area in the same PlayStation 5 showcase trailer, and at the very end, they dropped this freaking bomb on us, which is obviously is the only thing that they could give us, and it worked. It was this merchant-like character smoking a cigar, saying something on the lines like, "Hey, I'm basically the merchant." That blew our head. Like they gave us something. It wasn't announced, wasn't expected, but they gave it to us. I suspect is because they didn't give us anything in August. Now they're saying that we're gonna get something at the end of September, which is Tokyo Game Show. We get to Tokyo Game Show the first day. They tell us expect big news, expect this and that. We got little bit snippets of gameplay of, if you want to call it that. It was basically just the 2 hands that we come to know as Ethan walking and then crawling. And then we got a definitive character design for him. Yeah. Which is awesome, which is really cool. But that was it. And then the rest of it was them saying it was going to be scary. The game's going to be scary. The game's going to be so scary that you have to buy it to experience it.
Well, I mean, they did confirm a few things. I mean, there was some leaks that we did get confirmed, like, you know, being able to block the beastmen and other creatures with furniture to stop them from getting in. The idea of the pack hunting from the creatures that follow you. I mean, there's a lot of different things that they actually touched on very briefly that we got to confirm. I mean, even like with Chris saying the hello, Chris, and the phone ringing issue as well that was confirmed for the new cuts. They had that as well.
But this is technically stuff that we already knew, you know?
Yeah.
I just we didn't get any new information that
But you got to think if we was a casual fan, we wouldn't have known that. So like, obviously we're exposed to information, supposed information, and you can't always pull the trigger on it.
But was that the big information they kept telling us? I was so confused by that. Expect big information. Expect big information. And then like to continue on, and on the second day, we utterly got nothing. Oh, I'm sorry. The first day we also got they were going to talk about the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil, which was really cool. Don't get me wrong. That's probably what the but news was. But all they say is that we're going to do something for the 25th anniversary. Cool. That's amazing. That's pretty awesome. We got this new piece of art. Questionable. Very questionable on who they put on it and the way they were put on it. I don't know how you boys feel about that, using RE7 Chris and then not having Ethan in it. Even if it was first person view of Ethan looking at everybody and it was just hands in front of them, like it was just a weird choice to me. And then like the second day, it was just a rehash of what they said the first day. And then they played a demo that we didn't even get to see. But they had one. And they said prior to the second day, we've got big information, which we now understand is Infinite Darkness. But was obviously ruined before that. Don't get me wrong, that would have been big news. It's just my question is, if you had something for Resident Evil 8 Village to demo, I just don't understand why we couldn't see it. And then like to touch down on the 25th anniversary, they basically said we have big plans for next year for Resident Evil, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, I love that. But I'm also now thinking, is that all this Netflix stuff and film stuff that you guys were talking about, or does it have something to do with the poster that we're seeing right now?
And again, just as an overview to what you were just saying about. Again, probably the big announcement was the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil, which is going to be next year, isn't it? 25th anniversary of Resident Evil? Or is it a year after? Very interesting poster here. And maybe we're reading too much into this, but point you picked up on, RE7 Chris, probably the worst version of Chris.
And we have a new render of Chris that you got right. I don't know. That you fixed.
Hunk,
Hunk's on the front. That's all that matters.
But Hunk, who doesn't have a main series game, and no Ethan, despite being the main character in the last two games. Why do they hate Ethan so much? This is what I really want to know. Why do they hate Ethan's face so much? Even in the concept art, he's like this. So I've got my light over here. He's like this.
I think there's something behind that. I think a lot of us think that there's something behind that we're going to get revealed in the upcoming games. I don't think it's just coincidence. I really don't. But then again, we can't really confirm that at this time.
But if you add up all of the evidence we do have, the renders, the lack of Ethan in this poster, lack of him in any poster in Resident Evil 7, this man is ugly. And that's the only thing. That's the only thing I can put together. They even put the game in first person, so you don't see his face.
Right. Which then you bring up a good point, Andy. You know how they you don't show his face. You don't see his face. You play as him because they wanted you to be immersed into the game. Like he was a clean slate for characters to use. Why did they put so much importance on his design for the new game? I wonder. Like
that's a really interesting point. Holy shit, I didn't even think of that.
I don't understand.
You got to think like in Resident Evil and exactly that. And I feel like that really sold the first person element of it. Was that Ethan symbolically is you, and you are going around the Baker Mansion. You just happen to have a wife that you're finding. I feel like that's. But the only thing is that's immediately thrown out in Resident Evil 7, where he's going to be like, I don't know, not the same vibe. It's not us in a village. It's not us getting our wife gunned down. Like it was different. It really was different.
It was telling his actual story. Like he is a definitive character of Resident Evil now, but they keep saying they wanted him to be a clean slate. But now he looks like a Resident Evil character. His new design looks like he's an actual character of Resident Evil.
It looks like a Silent Hill character, but
But you understand what I'm saying. It just
Yeah.
he looks like, oh, he's got more importance now. He's more recognizable in this outfit. Like he looks like an actual a character you would see in another mainline Resident Evil game, like 5 or 4 or 3 or 2. Like but obviously there's a face model. Obviously there's someone playing this man. He has one. Like he's just like, he's always just hidden. It's really odd to me that they go to promote that, oh, he's a clean slate of a character, but also this is the end of his story and this is his design, and look how cool. Basically in that first day of trailer of TGS, they were saying we really overhauled Ethan as a design and as him as a character. I'm really confused on what's going on with Ethan, to be quite honest.
Just as an overarching point about TGS, I really feel like they did hit it out of the park, but it's because of the chain of events that happened. It killed all momentum. Like, you got to think. So TGS happens, you get this new reveal trailer, which we were expecting a reveal trailer. It did look really good. We loved it. They announced the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil, which is a really big deal. Really big deal. This series has been going on for 25 years. And they even dropped a Netflix movie. Because of what happened with the movie in Netflix Portugal, it ruined it. It completely killed the momentum of the show. So the question is, was TGS really that bad? Once you take that all into consideration.
No, I don't think it was.
Yes, I do.
But why do you think it was good?
Go ahead.
So, other than the unfortunate release of Infinite Darkness, they started out the way most do with the game. We got some little details. We had some things confirmed. We got a new trailer, which is usually the standard. We got all that on the first day. And then the second day, even if we didn't necessarily get more of the village, because I have two feelings on this. One, if they had the release of Infinite Darkness without the release of Portugal, that would have been mind-blowing. We can't say that every Resident Evil fan on the planet would have been sitting there waiting to get village information, and the next thing you know, we're watching a trailer to a CGI like TV show or movie with Leon and Claire in it. You'd be losing your shit. But at the same time, with Village, it just felt like there was more that they had available to us that they just weren't giving us. It even ended to the point where they were playing the so-called demo, and we don't know what specific demo that was, but for those 15 minutes that he was playing it on screen, he couldn't show us.
I agree with you 100%, Matt.
And I don't want to think that it's like, oh, well, it's because they're so far behind on development. That's not the mindset that I want to be in it for it. I like the idea that they're keeping us in the dark. I like the idea that they're trying to, keep things from us so that once the game comes out or once the demo comes out, it's more of a, suspenseful thing. It's more revealing, that it really, has a shock feeling and factor to it. But at the same time, the way it was handled, it just felt like they were behind.
Not a big deal. And again, this is a very valid point. Not only did we get this new trailer shown at TGS with the play, it was also shown at the fucking PS5 showcase, which was like a couple of days before. Why is there so much reliance on this one trailer? Why did they not give us a tiny bit of fucking gameplay?
Which leads me to believe is because they didn't have something ready for us in August, like they said. They were like I swear this is how it must have happened. Like days before the showcase, they're like, "Hey, Capcom was like, can we put our trailer on for this? Because obviously it's coming out for PS5, and like that was their only outlet. Like, okay, we gotta do damage control. We didn't put anything out for August, so we'll just sneak it in there because there was no prior announcement for it. They didn't say anything about it. They didn't say they were gonna do it. They said that." I don't think they said anything. It was just there. and we happened to cover it just in case they were going to do something, and they did. And then you go back to TGS, they didn't have much more information. It would have been better for them to show, because they did show the trailer at TGS, the same trailer we got at PS5 Showcase. It would have been 1,000 times better if they had just waited. And it would have been, oh, crap, oh, everyone, the merchant's out, oh, God, that would have been crazy. And then to bring back to Matt's point, if they had a demo playable, why couldn't you just show us that? I mean, I there's got to be some kind of, back door things that we don't know about, obviously, as to why they couldn't do it. But I do think, in the back of my mind, there's some kind of development hell going on. That's why they didn't want to show us the demo they had. There was something wrong with it. There's something going on that is preventing them from releasing certain info at certain times, like they said they were going to, especially because of COVID. I'm sure it's really hard. Everyone's working in separate offices. They have a number of people that they can be worked with. They got to be tested. And if they do have COVID, they got to work from home. I'm sure that's hard. That's got to be hell on them. So I'm almost positive. I think if I had to guess, there is some development hell going on for Resident Evil Village. I really do.
And I do think that's the case as well, because we know that they are having some serious issues porting it to the current gen consoles, which I think, and for as a matter of fact, I think it's a very bad idea to come out and publicly say we're trying to get it to work on the previous generation. Just keep your mouth shut. That's a very poor business decision move to do. I mean, without being rude, Capcom are saints at making Resident Evil games. Let's not take the accolades out of context now. But the PS4 has been out for 7 years. This hardware is well known.
That's a good point, Andy.
We're at the end of the life cycle. If a game didn't look as good at the end of the life cycle as at the start of the life cycle, that means they haven't fully optimized the hardware. Like, you got to think where PSX games were in 1994 and where PSX games were in 1990. Sorry, in 2001, and the same with the PS2 graphics in 2001, and then graphics in 2008 when the PS3 come out. Like, there are massive differences because they're fully capitalized on the hardware. How have Capcom not been in a position to confirm? It shouldn't be, oh, we might be able to get it on there. Can you get it on there, or can you not get it on there? Because the PS5 is a couple of months away, and the Xbox Series X is a few months away. We need to know now if we're buying them on them consoles. Just confirm it. I don't know why they've got a bug in their mouth about this.
And imagine, because like they said we're working on it. Imagine it turns out, okay, we couldn't get to work on PS4. Okay, now all these PS4 players are like, okay, so now we have to get next gen consoles.
See, that's the reason I think that's happening, though. I mean, as much as I hate to see it from a business perspective, if you can tell people that we're not 100% sure it's going to run on the old system, so that way it boosts sales for the new system generation, I think they're just kind of holding out until they can kind of explain to people, oh yeah, it'll be available on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. I don't know that for sure, but from a marketing standpoint, I think what they're trying to do is just drag it out long enough so that they can really get those pre-sales in. Could be, or I could be completely wrong, but I mean,
but which again, it leads me to believe that Resident Evil 8 is for some reason not holding together. Yeah. I bet you, with the demo that they had, and they just wanted to give players as much as they could at that time for TGS. That's why they had that guy played the demo with, like, they had to put a sheet over the screen to make sure that no one could see anything in reflections of anything. And people were trying to. I seen tweets, people trying to see the reflection of the game in the guy's eyes. That's how bad I think the community was, like, deprived for Resident Evil 8 information since August. And again, this leads me to believe this isn't put well. It isn't put together well. I almost think that comedian guy who they had play it had to sign a waiver saying, "Hey, don't say anything." Obviously, he did, but you can't say anything about how the game looks or this, and that, because it probably looks like Resident Evil 7 verbatim.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I wholeheartedly believe that. And that's, again, I am nervous.
See, that's another thing. On the other side, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. But also, I think this is a massive project. And I think, like most massive projects, they're just running into problems.
Especially with the COVID, they're not working in the same building. They don't have access to everything that they need to. That's immediately ready to them. Like, they can run over to the guy who's doing backgrounds. Like, hey man, for every he runs over. He goes like, hey man, every time I shoot a bullet out of this gun, it renders all the way across the map. Like, oh, okay, let's work on that together. Fix it real quick. They can't do that. They're not able to do stuff like that. I'm doing a face value, obviously, a circumstance. It's not. Yeah. That's probably not how it verbatim works, but they I don't think they're readily able to do stuff like that. So, which obviously is going to be stunting the development of this game. So,
yeah, see, that's the thing. That's a big takeaway, because honestly, the same situation is happening with another trilogy and another game that I'm very, has been a part of my life and I love. Same thing has happened with Halo. Game been dealt with it for a couple of years, the same way they're working with Village and the other games. COVID situation happens. It's honestly the best thing at this point, to, even if you need to push it back a certain amount to make sure that the game is good, to make sure that everybody likes it, that it's compatible, that it works right. I think right now what's going on with Village is the same thing. Now, I don't know if they're having trouble because of the COVID situation or because they've had trouble with the game since they started making it. I mean, it's hard for us to tell at this point. But I just think the lack of information, the lack of demo, the very minimal information we've been shown or given at any type of convention or reveal is just basically reflecting that it's just not going through the normal process it would be. It's going to take longer. I think there are issues with the game.
There has to be. There's no reason that it wouldn't be, Yeah. So I really do think that there is no liable other explanation other than the fact that they're running into problems. We see, I believe, I think in some of the actual trailers we can see, people have tried to point out rendering issues and stuff like that, like even in scenes. And apparently there are. I think the only one I can think of is like the Merchant's Hand or something like that. But other than that, we have not seen definitive gameplay, and it's got to have something to do with gameplay. Has to be something to do with it. Something's not working right. Whether it be the first person's perspective first person perspective, or like some other parts that they're trying to be really elemental with, like they're trying to make the gameplay more immersive or something like that. Some kind of mechanics. They're just not working. And if for some reason it's very core to the actual gameplay that we experience like casually. So I don't
think that's an unreasonable statement.
I'm worried.
You've been a very worried man during this podcast.
I love Resident Evil.
Yeah, I suppose you want it to be perfect. But overall, I'm digging the theme of Resident Evil Village. I really believe this is gonna kind of make Capcom rethink Resident Evil in a different way, but in a better way than how they've done previously. I really do believe that, and I'm really digging the theme. I love the lore behind it. We did a fantastic podcast with Beggy Beg of Residents of Evil. And we broke down what the anticipated lore of Resident Evil 8, and it's absolutely fascinating. You've got you got references to Dracula, you got references to Bram Stoker, you got Romanian folklore. It's absolutely insane. So I implore everybody to check that out. But I think this is it's good so far. It's good. They're just having a couple of hiccups with the promotion side of it. I think we need something fantastic. Else.
I think the setting, like it feels survival horror. It absolutely does. It's great to me. It screams it, especially with the lore behind it and the creepiness that they're selling it for. I think it works. Yep. It's going to be a full on Resident Evil experience. I do believe that.
Yeah,
You get an
it's
R-rated
just amazing.
version of Resident Evil 4 combined with Van Helsing. I don't know how to explain it any better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from like the characters, the development, the lore, it feels good. And I know with a lot of Resident Evil fans, it's really split. I mean, a lot were split on 7, which is understandable. I can get that. But I mean, even if we're going in this direction, continuing from 7, it looks like it's going to be better than 7. I like the idea of where we're going. I like the information that we have so far, the plot, the scenario, where we are. It leaves so much to the imagination. And it makes you feel like you're secluded. It feels like horror. It feels like you've been just taken and thrown into something that you literally have to survive in. I mean, you understand that Ethan is, a character that has had his experiences surviving things as well. But it gives me a very, very big survival horror vibe about it too. And from some of the things that we've heard about, whether it's the weapon sets or gameplay or how it's going to be played, it sounds like in this game, it's more running and surviving compared to fighting. I like games that make you feel helpless. I like games that make you feel like you really have to try to survive and that you're playing against the game and the game is playing against you. And from everything that we've seen so far, I mean, I think it's given us the perfect environment for it.
Indeed. It could be any of the topics that we discussed there. Any last thoughts before we wrap up the show?
Do you really think Chris Redfield is going to be bad?
I think his personal feelings and involvement are going to be trifled with in this game, just kind of like it was in 6. I think as a core, he's always going to be a good character. I think he might make some questionable decisions in this game that really lead you to believe that he's going in that direction. But I don't think we're going to get an evil character. I think we're going to get something that even if he makes his own mistakes, we'll get redemption for it. I'm more worried along the lines if he's going to survive this game.
Me too.
I know you are.
I do believe that because we know that for a fact that it's going to be Ethan's story that comes to an end. Well, that has been confirmed. So I think Chris is surviving this, but his motives at the moment are totally muddy. We just got to see what happens.
Pretty much, yeah.
What about you, Marvel?
I think this is like it isn't what it seems like scenario. I think that's exactly what it is. I'm hoping at least that's what it is, because the only thing that I keep thinking that is because we knew 2 things. In one trailer, we saw him come up, shoot Mia. Sorry, Ethan. And he goes, why? But in the other trailer that we saw, he comes up, he goes, what the hell, Chris? And he goes, take him away. Like it seems like one was a premonition, one was reality, and I don't know which one it was. And I think one of them was a premonition, and I think it was the one him shooting Mia. I think. I don't know. But I'm hoping that's what's happening.
Indeed. And as with all content, as with all this media-based content, we're in the early stages. Anything can happen. Capcom could cancel every single one of them. It's just the nature of who we are. But for now, you know that Biohazard Declassified and its website, biohazardcast.com, will be at the forefront of all Resident Evil related news. So if you ever want to see what the latest update is on any of the projects we've discussed today, please check our website out and follow us on our Facebook and YouTube pages, because we are all over it like flies on shit. For now, guys, have a good one. I'm very grateful for these gentlemen joining me today, speaking about some more Resident Evil news. Have a good one. Take it easy. Look after yourselves. And hopefully we'll see you all in our next podcast.